Hey guys, how's it going? Static here, and if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you'd know that each time a new Minecraft update comes out, I usually do a concise, comprehensive video covering all of the important changes, or the changes that are important to me. Minecraft 1.8 is just around the corner, and since it's set to be such a huge update, I thought I'd do a quick pre-update rundown of what we know so far, since there will probably be far too much for me to cover it all adequately after the fact. So 1.8, being dubbed the Adventure Update, is going to be bringing a whole lot of new features, fixes and changes, graphics, user interface and audio improvements, new multiplayer features and long-awaited modding support. Now, although the update still doesn't have a concrete release date aside from after August 28th, Minecraft is officially set to exit the beta stages in early to mid-November, so it's pretty safe to assume that we won't have to wait for too long after this roundabout deadline for the new update. Now, I think by far the changes that people are most excited for are the new features. Now, these include the things that basically make the Adventure Update an Adventure Update. So, for example, the NPC villages, underground ravines, strongholds, that kind of thing. Now, there's a lot of apprehension that perhaps we're going to need to create completely new worlds to actually get these features. Other people think that perhaps, you'll be able to turn on and off adventure mode. Basically what I'm thinking is that it's going to be the same as the lapis lazuli blocks and the new trees when they first came in, that it's only going to appear in new worlds or in new chunks. So basically, if you're using a world that you've already used before, you'll need to explore lands that you haven't yet explored. So that'll sort of force the terrain generator to make up some more terrain, and that'll include the new features. So, as I've mentioned, these features include NPC villages, which are going to have farms and town borders and stuff. You're going to be able to claim land inside these towns, so I assume this means buying a plot of land and being able to make a house or something. There's also going to be wells. Now, this makes me think that another unpopular change is coming to the game, which will probably be the removing of the infinite water glitch. Now, let's face it, guys, this is a glitch, it's not a feature. I'm sure Notch didn't intend for you to be able to create infinite water with 2 buckets of the stuff. So I have a feeling that this is going to be removed in the 1.8 update, and this is going to necessitate wells. Now, the villages are also going to contain an NPC smith, and the wiki says that he's going to own a forge that uses lava. Now, I'm not quite sure what the importance of this is. I mean, at the moment our furnaces can use lava as a heat source, so perhaps maybe our furnaces are no longer going to have that ability, and only this smith's forge will have the ability. For those of you who are unaware, lava in a furnace basically just makes it last for longer at the moment. So, I don't know, perhaps this will mean the ability to smelt new items or something in the future, so new ores that you won't be able to smelt in your normal furnace. Other than that, I can't really see the benefit. Now, I've seen the underground ravines in a couple of pictures. They look pretty awesome, and these include canyons that you can see on the surfaces. Now, one thing that I've been noticing is that in a lot of the screenshots that have been leaked, you'll be able to see the main thing that the screenshot is pointing out. So, for example, in this picture of the NPC village that we were talking about just earlier, you can also see what seems to be a ravine, or a canyon I should say, so snaking its way through the village. I've noticed a lot of these little features in some of the screenshots where there'll be a main focus and then a little hidden hint as to other features that will be added into the game. As I've mentioned, Strongholds will be introduced into the game, which will consist of 4 new blocks, which will be the stone bricks, moss stone bricks, cracked stone bricks, and iron bars. Now, in this screenshot of the Strongholds, you can see all 4 of these blocks that are being introduced. At first, I could only see the stone bricks and the mossy stone bricks, but on closer inspection, you can see the cracked stone bricks as well, and as well you can see the iron bars just hiding over here. There will be different game modes introduced. For example, a new creative mode, which is going to allow vanilla flying, or limited flying basically, so you can fly around your creations and make things a little bit easier without the use of a mod. Another highly anticipated feature of the new update is new mobs. Now, specifically, everyone's expecting Enderman, so these tall, skinny looking, almost like squid looking kind of people who are basically going to be peaceful most of the time until your crosshair sort of goes over them, so until you're staring at them, at which time, they'll stare straight back at you, and the moment you look away, they come sprinting and teleporting at you, trying to, I don't know, eat your brains or whatever. Notch has said that his intention in including the Enderman is to include a little bit of fear, but, not flat out terror, basically. So there are going to be ways to deal with the Enderman. Specifically, there's been a screenshot released in which you can see the player wearing a pumpkin on their head, and it seems as though the Endermen aren't reacting to the player. So it's possible that wearing a pumpkin on your head will make you invisible to the Enderman. Also, the wiki states in quotation marks at least one new mob being introduced to the game. However, since 1.6, there was a texture released or leaked for a new mob called the Silverfish, and it's possible that the Silverfish might be added in 1.8. And there's been a couple of pictures of what the Silverfish is likely to look like. I think the chances of this mob being added are quite good, to be honest, as well as some other water mobs. Another new feature coming in the 1.8 update that's been sorely needed is new farming options and more interesting farming. I mean, at the moment, let's face it, farming's pretty boring and it's not really all that useful. I mean, we've made sugarcane farm designs, wheat farm designs, all that kind of stuff, but sugarcane we don't really use for that many things. I mean, you can make a library, but then books are useless anyway. Wheat is kind of cool, but you got pork chops, which are better than bread, and then you got mushroom stew now, which are far better than pork chops. So there's really no point to be growing wheat either. So at the moment, farming's basically just you do it because you can sort of thing. With the addition of NPC villages, hopefully there's like a merchant or something where you can sell your produce to. So if you farm a whole heap of bread, you could sell the bread to them for money and buy other random items. Jeb has also talked in the past about a cocoa bean tree being introduced to the game. Also, pumpkins are going to be plantable now, which is cool. That way, you don't have to just rely on finding the little pumpkin patches out in the wild. Also, melons are said to be introduced in 1.8 as well, which both pumpkins and melons will grow with a central stem and have their fruit and stuff growing next to it. And also, animal breeding is said to be introduced. Now, this one's a bit of a double-edged sword. The wiki only says that animal breeding is going to be introduced, but this also means that animals are probably going to become more persistent. So what I mean by this is that if you kill a bunch of pigs that you've got in your little area, that's it. The pigs are gone, basically, unless you can find pigs elsewhere and somehow herd them back to your land. At the moment, we've got infinite animals. You just spawn more animals. In the future, in 1.8, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to need to actually breed your animals and farm them. All of this talk on farming brings us to the new food system that's going to be implemented. After the 1.8 update, food is no longer going to heal directly. Instead, it's going to heal us indirectly. Now, this comes back to the food meter that you might have seen in some of the released screenshots. Now, basically what's going to happen is if your food meter is over a certain point, so let's say 90%, you'll gradually regain your health. However, if it's below a certain point, such as 10%, you'll actually slowly lose health. Your food meter will deplete gradually over time, and so you'll need to eat food to replenish this food meter. Now, food's also going to take 1.6 seconds to consume, so it's not going to be an instant gratification thing now anymore. We're not going to be able to just swallow a single pork chop whole. We're actually going to have to chew it for a second or so. Also, food is going to be stackable, which this is great. I mean, I've been wanting this for quite a while. This means that you're no longer going to have to only take 4 pork chops with you down when you're spelunking, because otherwise they take up too much room. Now you're actually going to be able to bring a stack of pork chops. However, I have a feeling that to stop people from abusing this feature, Notch is probably going to make it so that the stacks will only be 16 high as opposed to 64 high for most other objects. Now, there's also going to be a new food eating animation, and there's most likely going to be sound effects accompanying that animation. Now, the wiki and the forums also mention that 5 new food items are going to be introduced. These include cooked chicken, raw chicken, potentially steak or some other food, and the new melon blocks, but these haven't been confirmed as food yet. And I've got some screenshots here, as you'll see, of some of the new food items. Now, this one here, it was speculated the food items being shown in this image were pork, lamb, and beef. However, I tend to disagree with this assessment myself. I mean, the way I see it is over on the left hand side here, we've got pork, so the raw pork that you'd get from pigs, and I think Notch and Co are going to reskin the cooked pork as this lighter meat that you see here. The reason being is pork in real life when cooked is actually a lighter meat, hence the term white meat. So the brown meat that we get at the moment isn't quite realistic. I think this old skin of the cooked pork chops is now going to be for cooked beef, and I think this reddish meat over here is going to be uncooked beef. Now also sprinting is going to be added into the game, and this is going to bring with it a whole heap of other mechanics such as hitting a mob while rushing, sending them flying, so recoiling them basically, which again is just going to add some more variety into the combat, I think, which is going to be great. However, there is going to be a drawback to sprinting. Sprinting is probably going to decrease deplete your food bar slowly, so the more you sprint, the more you're going to have to eat. A couple of new blocks that are going to be added to the game include glass panes, possibly spike blocks. These are going to be great for anyone who likes to make traps and stuff on multiplayer servers, although unless the spike blocks are able to break blocks, it's going to be kind of hard to hide these things, I think. However, I personally do hope that the spike blocks are able to break blocks. That was one disappointment I had with the introduction of pistons, was that they weren't able to break blocks anymore, and so we weren't able to make cobblestone generators, automatic wood farms, anything like that. So hopefully the spike blocks bring in this functionality. Also, arrows are now going to be stuck in mobs. As you can see, this zombie here has a couple of arrows stuck in his back. So I think this is great. I'm sick of being punished for actually hitting a mob and being rewarded for missing. I want my arrows back when I hit something. I don't really care if I get them back or not when I miss. So I'm glad to hear that arrows are now going to be stuck in mobs, so hopefully that means that they'll be retrievable as well. One feature I am really excited for is the new combat mechanics. Basically, at the moment, combat's kind of boring. Every time you hit a mob with a sword, you're going to do exactly the same damage. The bows are way overpowered. I mean, if you get yourself a skeleton spawner or a mob system, you get almost infinite arrows, and you can shoot, hundreds of these things in a second, just about. Now, the new combat mechanics are going to include critical hits. That means that you don't know quite how much damage you're going to be doing to a zombie, so it's not going to be 4 hits and the thing's dead, or depending on what weapon you're using, it's going to be pretty much random every battle. Also, the bows are going to now be hold to charge, so you can still spam the bows if you want, I think, but the arrows aren't going to go much further than your own feet. So to do some real damage with the bows, you're going to actually have to hold down the attack button, charge up that shot, and then release it. Now, also a change that was mentioned on the wiki was the player blocking attack animation. So it seems like you're going to be able to block attacks from mobs. I'm not sure if this is going to be something that you'll be able to do at will, or whether it's going to be something that'll just happen automatically every now and then. But I don't know, it's something that I think could add quite a bit of variety to combat. And also they've listed possibly more player animations. So I mean, we've already got attacking animation, so maybe like a taking damage animation, so like a little bit of a stumble or something. Biomes are also going to be tweaked in the new update. Basically, a new biome is going to be added, which is going to be the mushroom biome with huge brown and red mushrooms. Now, I know a lot of people don't quite like the look of the giant mushrooms that are going to be added to the game. Some people think they look kind of tacky, which I can kind of see where they're coming from with that, but I don't know, I think they look kind of cool and they might add something new to the game. However, for those of you who don't like the look of the mushrooms, you can rest easy in the fact that chances are these mushrooms are only going to be able to be found in specific biomes. So if you don't like the things, just steer clear of these biomes. And now in 1.8, the biomes are going to be expanded. So if you find yourself in a snowy biome, for example, there's going to be a lot more snow to walk over until you find yourself in a grassy pasture, for example. So same goes for these mushrooms. Chances are you'd have to walk for quite a while to find one of these mushroom biomes if you're not already in one. Now also, there's a possibility of rivers being introduced to the game, and now this is something that I talked about on the Lethal Injection podcast with the guys. I'm a little bit mixed as to whether I like this feature or not. It's unclear from the picture whether the water is going to be flowing or not. If it's just going to be a whole heap of still source blocks, I think it's going to be quite a boring addition to the game. Basically, the world generator already creates these kind of things through serendipity, unless, of course, this water is flowing. If the water's flowing, I think this is going to be a great feature. It's going to really add to maps, I think. Now, there are a bunch of new fixes and changes being introduced in 1.8. However, I'm only going to talk about the ones that have piqued my interest. If you want more info on the full list of fixes and changes, you can head to the wiki, which I'll link in the description, or check out the forums or the various Twitter pages of the Mojang crew. However, the fixes and changes that I'd like to talk about are that user-placed leaf blocks aren't going to decay anymore. So once you harvest leaves from a tree and then place them to make, I don't know, hedges or something, they're not going to decay even if they're not within however many blocks of a wooden block or a log block. So I think to an extent this is cool. It means that it makes it a lot easier to make cool looking hedges and stuff. You don't need to use a whole heap of logs. However, I think it's kind of a drawback in a way in that it's a lot less realistic, and it doesn't make sense that when you chop down a tree, its leaves decay, but that if you harvest those leaves and place them elsewhere, they don't decay anymore. I don't see the logic behind that, but hey, that's Mojang for you. I mean, the rivers that we mentioned earlier, it's possible that these rivers are going to flow in an infinite loop, so realism isn't exactly something that Mojang shoot for, but hey, hopefully it works. Now, also on the topic of realism, clouds are no longer going to be going through buildings if you build up at the cloud level. This is something that I think is awesome. I know people have been asking for this change for a long time, and it's finally coming. Clouds are no longer going to be able to pass through walls. And finally, zombies are now going to drop a new item. They're not going to be dropping feathers anymore. I'm not entirely sure what zombies could possibly drop, so obviously there's a new item coming into the game, unless of course they just drop arrows or something, but I mean skeletons already dropped that, so yeah, they'd have to be dropping something new. That means as well that our chicken farms are going to be a lot more valuable now. We do need chickens for feathers now. Also, it seems as though the vertical map height might be being increased, as you can see in this screenshot here of this massive mountain. I think this is going to be great because the mountains in Minecraft at the moment, yeah, they're kind of cool, but nowhere near as big as this bad boy here. 1.8 isn't all about features though. It's also about tidying up the game, making it look and feel a lot better for the official release. So for example, the lighting between day and night cycles is going to be improved greatly. At the moment you can really, even with the smooth lighting, you can really see the light levels changing when the sun goes up or down. However, that's no longer going to be needed. The lighting will be able to change smoothly. So I think that's going to make a world of difference in the way that the game looks. Also, torches are going to give off a warmer light, which I think is going to be great. It's going to make our houses and stuff feel a lot more secure at night time and a lot more cozy, basically. Also, there's going to be sliders introduced for field of view and gamma. This is going to be incredible for anyone who likes to make videos for YouTube or even just for personal use. I think the field of view is going to be great. It's going to, hopefully for people who have trouble running Minecraft without lag, I'm thinking they should be able to decrease the field of view a little bit and speed up their game. But for those of us who like to film Minecraft in widescreen for our YouTube channels, you could slide it all the way out to the sides basically. Also, Minecraft is notorious for being an extremely dark game when you record it, so I think the gamma slider is going to be absolutely incredible, and people like myself and DocM are probably going to use this quite a bit. Also, the HUD, so the heads-up display, is going to be completely redesigned with two new features, which are going to be a food bar and an experience bar. I think adding experience into the game could, depending on how they do it, make the game a completely different experience. So hopefully they don't go too overboard with that, changing it from a creative game to a completely RPG game. But if they play their cards right, that could become quite an interesting feature. Possibly new particle effects might be added to the game. So I don't know, such as maybe even though Minecraft is aimed towards a younger audience, I'm hoping for possible blood when you shoot a zombie with an arrow or something like that, or grass flying up if the arrow hits, and dirt when the arrow hits the ground, or those kind of particle effects. But we'll see. And finally, a lot of new sounds are being brought into the game, and certain sounds are being changed. So for example, minecart rides are no longer going to be completely silent. There are going to be some minecart sounds, so perhaps of the minecart rattling along the tracks. The shears are going to make sounds now, and also rain is going to sound different. Hopefully it's going to be a lot nicer sounding now. Also, there's going to be new bow sounds introduced. New door sounds are going to be introduced. I'm not sure I like this. I happen to like the sound that the doors make, but that being said, the doors on Terraria do sound a lot better, so hopefully something like that. The big slimes are going to make a different sound, and skeletons are now going to sound more like skeletons when they walk. A couple of new multiplayer features are being introduced which have been sorely needed, including an improved server join screen with a multiplayer server list. So basically, instead of having to troll YouTube and the forums for IP addresses, you'll actually be able to search for IPs, and hopefully you'll be able to filter these by things such as location, ping, player cap, that kind of thing. And also player lists, so pressing tab is going to bring up a list of the players in the server, which I think is going to be great. That means that you don't need to rely on third-party plugins where you type /who and get up a list. I mean, I'm a bit of a noob when it comes to multiplayer, so that might actually be a built-in feature of most servers, but it'd be nice to just be able to press tab and get a list of everyone on the server at the moment. And finally, moderators are going to have the ability to enter creative mode even while the server is in SMP. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to be implemented, but it should be interesting. Lucky last, and one of the most highly anticipated changes is finally coming in 1.8, and that's modding support. So hopefully this is going to mean the ability to easily turn mods on and off. Much easier modding for those out there who are so inclined, so hopefully this means we'll see more quality mods. And also apparently it's going to be a lot easier for modders to change the max level height, so how tall the map is basically. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this coverage of the planned features for 1.8. I hope you're as excited for the update as I am, and I'll see you after the update with a full update video, so keep an eye out for that. And that'll include the new features. So, as I've mentioned, these features include NPC villages, which are going to have farms and town borders and stuff. You're going to be able to claim land inside these towns, so I assume this means buying a plot of land and being able to make a house or something. There's also going to be wells. Now, this makes me think that another unpopular change is coming to the game, which will probably be the removing of the infinite water glitch. Now let's face it guys, this is a glitch, it's not a feature. I'm sure Notch didn't intend for you to be able to create infinite water with 2 buckets of the stuff. So I have a feeling that this is going to be removed in the 1.8 update. A lot of new features, fixes and changes, graphics, user interface and audio improvements, new multiplayer features and long-awaited modding support. Now, although the update still doesn't have a concrete release date aside from after August 28th, Minecraft is officially set to exit the beta stages in early to mid-November, so it's pretty safe to assume that we won't have to wait for too long after this roundabout deadline for the new update. Now, I think by far the changes that people are most excited for are the new features. Now, these include the things that basically make the Adventure Update an Adventure Update. So, for example, the NPC villages, underground ravines, strongholds, that kind of thing. Now, there's a lot of apprehension that perhaps we're going to need to create completely new worlds to actually get these features. Other people think that perhaps, you'll be able to turn on and off adventure mode. Basically what I'm thinking is that it's going to be the same as the lapis lazuli blocks that and the new trees when they first came in, that it's only going to appear in new worlds or in new chunks. So basically, if you're using a world that you've already used before, you'll need to explore lands that you haven't yet explored, so that'll sort of force the terrain generator to make up some more terrain. Hey guys, how's it going? Static here, and if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you'd know that each time a new Minecraft update comes out, I usually do a concise, comprehensive video covering all of the important changes, or the changes that are important to me. Minecraft 1.8 is just around the corner, and since it's set to be such a huge update, I thought I'd do a quick pre-update rundown of what we know so far, since there will probably be far too much for me to cover it all adequately after the fact. So 1.8 being dubbed the Adventure Update is going to be bringing a whole, and this is going to necessitate wells. Now, the villages are also going to contain an NPC smith, and the wiki says that he's going to own a forge that uses lava. Now, I'm not quite sure what the importance of this is. I mean, at the moment, our furnaces can use lava as a heat source, so perhaps maybe our furnaces are no longer going to have that ability, and only this Smith's Forge will have the ability. For those of you who are unaware, lava in a furnace basically just makes it last for longer at the moment. So, I don't know, perhaps this will mean the ability to smelt new items or something in the future, so new ores that you won't be able to smelt in your normal furnace. Other than that, I can't really see the benefit.